All right, friends. Good afternoon. It's afternoon where I am, and welcome to the Process Over Prize podcast. This is the first episode. What I just want to do is introduce myself, kind of talk about where the brand came from, and what to expect from this podcast. So, my name is Martin. I've been training, competing in combat sports, martial arts for over 20 years now. I started out wrestling when I was younger. Naturally kind of progressed into different things like Muay Thai, boxing, kickboxing, and for the most part now, jiu-jitsu. So I'm an active duty service member. I've been in the military for almost 19 years now, just shy of 19 years. Throughout my time training, I've always had friends, family, people that I've trained with say, "Hey, man, I think you should brand yourself. You got a good thing going. You're doing a good thing. I think you should capitalize on it and brand yourself." So after years of considering, years of thinking about it, I finally, in 2017, sat down and actually put pen to paper and petitioned for what was the first logo I did. So the first logo I did, kind of backing up, the logo represents my family. So my wife, my kids. I wanted something that was meaningful to me, not a logo with like a bunch of skulls or a bunch of crazy stuff. I wanted something that I could look at to remind me of, my family, or remind me of our family. So the first logo we did, it had two birds. The two birds are a raven and a robin, which represent my two daughters, Raven and Robin. It had a chain at the top that represented the family tie. And then there was a text box at the bottom that said La Rutina. La Rutina being Spanish for the routine. So that portion was kind of homage to my wife, who's Venezuelan. So I wanted to have something that represented her in that. And at the bottom of it was Process Over Prize. Process Over Prize was kind of a phrase or a mantra that I adopted really in high school wrestling. Like those wrestlers out there can attest to the grind, the rigor that you go through, preparing for competition, preparing for a match, cutting weight, mentally, physically getting ready to step on the mat and compete. I always told myself, even at an early age in high school, that I wasn't going to focus on the prize. I wasn't going to focus on, the prize being getting the medal on the podium or getting my hand raised at the end of the match. Instead, I'm going to focus on this grind. I'm going to focus on this process that I'm going through to get ready. When I took a step back and started focusing on that, I noticed that I would fall in love with the preparation. And I had fallen in love with the preparation. Absolutely, anybody who competes would be lying to you if they told you that you don't feel some type of gratification, you don't feel some type of accomplishment when you get your hand raised or when you get a medal. Absolutely, there's nothing wrong with that. But more often than not, people focus on just that piece of, just that material thing. That medal that you hang up on the wall, the medal that you get on the podium or getting your hand raised. And they kind of brush aside all the steps that it took to get to that point. What I realized was when you take a step back and focus on those steps that get you to that point, it is more satisfying. There's more gratitude. There's more accomplishment felt when you focus on the process. And when you get done, win, lose, or draw, at the end of that process, you gave it all you got. So that was kind of the genesis behind the first logo. Oddly enough, after about 2 years of, printing t-shirts, printing all kind of, items with the logo on it, I ran into some potential infringement issues with another company, a company that published or that sold baseball items, and they had on their items the routine, which is in English. So after going back and forth, the U.S. Patent and Trade Office, finally I just decided we came to an agreement that they would buy me out. So they paid me handsomely to relinquish the La Rutina portion in my logo. From there, I just took out the La Rutina, which was Spanish for the routine, and I replaced it with the process over prize that was already at the bottom of the logo. So if you see some of the older items, that I have for sale on the website, you may see a few things with the remnants of the old logo that has La Rutina in there. It's still the same thing, just kind of redid the logo to get rid of all the infringement issues. So that's kind of the logo. That's the history of where it came from. From there, I started out, like I said, 2018. I was made official by the U.S. Patent and Trade Office. I got my trademark for my logo. I started out by putting it on some T-shirts, a couple rash guards that I would sell here and there. But as I sat back and looked at, the potential, again, friends and family kind of encouraging my entrepreneurial adventures, I expanded from there. Stood up a website on Shopify, started adding more items, started printing out some things for the jiu-jitsu community. My wife also, who runs the nutrition and fitness side of the Process Over Prize brand, she started adding some things that focused on CrossFit, her being a CrossFit coach. So from there, we just kind of expanded. Most recently, we added the YouTube page, started adding some tutorials, and logically, this was the next step. I wanted to add a podcast to kind of branch out and really just to share my experience, whether it be military, whether it be life, whether it be competing in sports. Most recently for me, training, competing, and getting ready for competition in jiu-jitsu. Which has kept me grounded, which has kept me sane over the years. So that's initially how everything started out. So again, this podcast was just a start, just to lay the foundation of who I am, where the brand came from, the idea, and kind of what to expect going forward in this podcast. In the future, I hope to get some mentors that have mentored me, military, in life, in jiu-jitsu, different sports that I've competed in over the years. I'll get them on the podcast to share their experience, with the focus being on, the process, whether it be the process of going through life, preparing for life events, whether it be the process of preparing for things in the business world, whether it be, the process of preparing for things in sports, competing in sports. Again, for me, focusing mainly on jiu-jitsu. Hope to get my wife on here so she can kind of talk about the portion that she focuses on, being the fitness and nutrition or the CrossFit realm. And then from there, we'll kind of see where this goes.